gotten everyone. Okay, Stephen, do you still want to wait for Rojo? It's 7 o'clock, or would you like, is there anybody that we need to wait for to begin? Oh, there's Rojo. He's joining us now.
Hey everyone, I thought Martin was here. I'm sorry.
No, it's all right. I borrowed your question about oceans versus mountains. It was a good one.
Okay, well, I can do the introduction.
Yes, go ahead.
Everyone, and welcome. I have the introduction here. I'll go ahead and just read it, if that's okay, Kristen. I'll pass it on to Stephen. I like that you're in outer space, Kristen.
Hey, Kristen, and can you give me the share screen permission? I actually have a PowerPoint.
Awesome, awesome. Well, to get us started, if folks could please go ahead and just put your name and where you're calling from in the chat. That way we get a sense of who's here in the call. I'm gonna go ahead and get us started and then pass it to Steven. My name is Rojo. I'm glad to have you here. I'm the Vice President of the Indigenous People Caucus for the Texas Democratic Party. Today's our August, and we started adding a word to each meeting to celebrate different things in the American Indigenous community. For this month's meeting, we've chosen the word fight. Fight can be inner or, inside of us, but it can also be in our community and what we're fighting for. And someone that we would love to uplift is our communications director with the IPC, Stephen, and the fight that he's been doing for a while. I'll go ahead and just read his biography and then go ahead and pass it to you, Stephen. So I added this on Facebook too for folks to see earlier. But Stephen Silva Brave, an enrolled citizen of the Sikangu Lakota Nation, Rosebud Sioux Tribe in South Dakota. He serves as the communications officer for the Indigenous People Caucus. He's based in DFW, and he's a licensed chemical dependency counselor, intern, and consultant for the Texas Pioneering Statewide Native American Studies course. He's currently pursuing a bachelor's of social work at the University of Texas in Arlington, and he received the Outstanding Student Activism Award and engages in research on grassroots efforts for missing and murdered Indigenous women. And as a key member of MMIW, Texas Remade Trip, he organizes Uncle Time, a unique community gathering to foster support among local Native American males. Stephen's diverse contribution underscore his dedication to uplifting Indigenous communities and driving positive change. So as y'all can see, it suits the topic of fight. Folks, if you're here to listen and mostly to hear, different points of view and perspectives, we ask you to please add the letter L to your name. And yeah, go ahead and just add your pronouns to your name as well. If you have any questions, send them on the chat, or at the end of the meeting, we'll have a chance to ask Stephen for some questions and Q&A. With that, I'll pass it down to Stephen. Help me welcome him.
Hello, everyone. I'm still trying to I'm trying to get the slide to where I can see my notes without everybody seeing my notes, and that's in Teams. It's always very easy for me, and for some reason in Zoom, I always have trouble getting that going. So you all can see my whole screen right now, right, Kristen?
Yeah, we can see it right now, plus the notes, I think. But
yeah, okay. So just give me. Hopefully, I just have to click one more thing, and then I'm good to go. Because I know for sure there's a way to do it. Okay, now is it showing still the notes? Okay, good. Okay. All right. So I'm ready to go. All right. So now whenever I was asked to speak here, this group with the Indigenous Peoples Caucus, which I'm very familiar with because I am, like Rojo said, the communication director. They told me that the subject was going to be on fight, and I'll get more into that, and that's what we'll talk about. They said the theme was fight. Martin told me, he didn't give me really much more instruction than that. So I hope that I went in the direction that everyone was looking for and that I don't get too off the rails. So hopefully everybody hang in there with me and hopefully we can bring this whole thing together and everybody will get something out of it. But again, my name is Stephen Silva Brave, and what I like to do in my Lakota way, everything we do is ritual based, right? We're a ritual based people. We're a prayer based person. I try to incorporate that into everything that I do. So there's going to be a few things that I always intend to do whenever I'm doing any public presentation. Some of it may seem a little weird to people, and I want to try to explain everything as I go along. So the first thing I'm going to do is something that I've heard an elder say. None of my actual family members or mentors do it, but I've heard an elder say it, and I want to start bringing it to things that they do. They say whenever you're speaking somewhere and you want your spirit involved, you actually introduce yourself by saying your name 4 times, and that brings your spirit into it. So I'm going to say, my name is Stephen Silva Brave. 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 So now I'm here with you all in every way, physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally. All right. And then another thing that not just me, but as Indigenous people, what we usually do is we locate ourselves by telling where we're from and who our people are. Okay, so I am born and raised in Dallas, Texas. I currently live in Grand Prairie, Texas, which is a suburb of Dallas. And this area, this land is the home of the Caddo, Wichita, and affiliated tribe. I mean, it's been home to the Caddo, Wichita, and affiliated tribes, the Humanos, Kickapoo, and Tawakoni nations at different points in history. And it's also been the home and is currently the home to thousands of plants and non-human relatives that we call animals that continue to be displaced to this very day, right? Like there's trees that we see that we think, oh, this beautiful tree in our area, that tree is actually from somewhere else. There's animals, and then the animals that are actually supposed to be here aren't here anymore. Or we say, oh, let's get rid of these coyotes, and they've been here for, like, they're hurting my cat. Well, cats weren't here, coyotes were here, right? These are the same things that have happened to our human relatives also. The tribes that are here, the people that are here were not necessarily the people that were originally from here. The ones that were from here are somewhere else. And this is my case also, right? I'm like one of these trees because this is not my traditional homeland. My traditional homeland is on the plains and the Black Hill areas of what is now known as South Dakota. So I have spent my whole life living on someone else's land. And when I do go to my home, which I do very, very often, go back to the plains and the Black Hills and to my people of Rosebud in South Dakota. But whenever I go there, I'm a visitor also. So just like a lot of people, I'm actually a visitor wherever I go, right? I'm a visitor in Dallas. I'm a visitor in Rosebud. And then another thing that I want to do is tell who my people are. And this is something that a lot of Native people do. And some people, even reconnecting people, things like that, get uncomfortable with this. But we always locate ourselves and tell who our people are, who our relations are. Relationships are of the utmost importance to us. And there's a lot of different reasons why someone might do that. But I will start here. Let's see. All right, so these are my parents, Joe Silva and Stephanie Silva. And that's a picture from like the late 80s. So my mom would be so upset if she knew that I was posting this picture, but I like it. My dad looks real cool in the background and stuff like that. So this is probably from when I was like 5 or 6. I can see my sister, the back of her head. She looks like she was maybe 4 in there. So that's my parents. They lived their whole life in the Oak Cliff area of Dallas. And right here are my three grandmas. In the middle is my grandma Eleanor Silva Brave. She is my paternal grandma. She's my dad's mom, and these are her two sisters by Grandma Julie and my Grandma Mary, who are my grandma Eleanor passed away in December of 2021, and my Grandma Julie and Grandma Mary are still kicking. And then some of my other relatives right here is my great grandpa Narcisse Brave and my great grandma Matilda Musso Brave, and they are my grandma Eleanor's parents, and they have uh, in Rosebud, when you go there, especially in the St. Francis area where my family is, they're very respected. They were, my great grandma was a medicine woman. My great grandpa was on tribal council, things like that. And I believe in the middle there is my grandma Truby, who passed away like in 2004, I believe. But of course, that's when she was a little girl. And then um, our family through marriage goes back to Chief Hollowhorn Bear. So he's one of one of the biggest chiefs of the Shinshagu Lakota Nation. So I don't want people to think that I'm saying that, like, oh, I'm one of his great grandparents. Through marriage or tribe within the tribe, we're Ashke, and he's our leader, our Chief Hollowhorn Bear. And I don't have pictures, but I can't forget to my other grandparents, my Nana, my Deedaw, Joyce and Robert Rock, and my granddaddy, Robert Araya. And then when I talk about my family, my relationships, keep myself grounded, my wife, Suan, and my sons, Joey and Chris, they're the reason that I do everything. So I got to acknowledge them. So, doing all of that before every presentation, it's like I said, we're a people of ritual, and I believe that I gotta place myself, locate myself, and bring all of them into this meeting with me. So whenever Martin reached out to me, he told me the theme of the meeting was fight, and that's really all he gave me, right? So I said, okay, fight. What do I talk about? Fight. This is the Indigenous Peoples Caucus. I'm a huge wrestling fan. So do I, spend the meeting talking about wrestling, or it's like, nah, that's probably not what they want. I'm also a boxing fan. I was like, so we can talk about boxing, a little stick and move, a little, Oscar De La Hoya, Pretty Boy Floyd. It's like, again, probably not what they want. So I'm like, okay, maybe we get a little more personal. So that's me when I was a teenager. When I was growing up, I've been in so many fights, and I'm talking physical fights. Like, people do not know this about me. So the people who really, really know me know how big of a wrestling fan I am. Like, I'm like a wrestling nerd, right? But only the people who knew me, like when I was 5 years old through 25-year-old, know how much I used to fight. Like, probably been in 100 fights, fist fights. I'm 5'5". I was never taught how to fight. I got beat up most of the time that I got into fights, right? So I don't think y'all want me talking about that kind of fighting, right? But the good thing is I haven't been in any physical fights in like 15 years or something, right? Like nowadays, I don't even get in arguments. I couldn't even imagine getting into a fist fight with anyone, but I've done it. So all of these things are running through my mind, right? Like, what do they want me to talk about? Do I talk about my 30 and 70 win-loss record fighting? Like, nah, they probably don't want me to talk about that, or boxing or wrestling. But I am a fighter, right? I've had to fight for my life. I fight for my family and my community. And us as the caucus, we fight for a reason, right? There's a reason why we're here, Indigenous people. So I figured that when Martin told me the theme is fight, that's probably what he actually meant, right? So then it got me thinking, well, as a caucus, do we need to fight? Like we're a caucus, right? Like we need to be handling business. Do we need to be fighting? Um, like someone already asked today, like, are we going to talk about any political agendas? Are we going to talk about any laws we need to be supporting? And I'm like, so do we need to be talking about fighting? And if we do, then who do we fight? Who are we fighting against? Why are we fighting, right? If we need to fight, why are we fighting? And then how do we fight? How would we even fight? So by the end of this presentation, hopefully we'll have some answers, right? And hopefully y'all will be able to answer those, and not just me, because I do not have all the answers. I don't have much answers. And so the way I'm going to relate all of this in Native American culture, a lot of what we do is storytelling, right? That's our best way of teaching. And I actually saw on the Indigenous Peoples Caucus page, they advertise my speech as something like what Native Americans in Texas fight for, or the fight for Native American in Texas is something, but I didn't see that until today, and I had already been preparing this presentation for a couple of weeks. So I was like, maybe next time I could do a little more educational talk. Maybe they'll have me back, hopefully. This one is going to be a little more storytelling, right? And it's going to be my story, but hopefully everything all links together. So for myself, I was born in the Oak Cliff area of Dallas in the 80s, and so of course I was raised in the 90s in a rough area. Oak Cliff is known for being a little tough, and it was even tougher back then in the 90s, 80s, early 2000s. I come from a loving family. I have a lot of support, but they were really tough on me, right? So they were really, and when you look back at your parents, I had my both of my sons by the time I was 20 years old, and my mom was 19 and my dad was 20 when I was born. So I'm seeing, they were very tough. They were trying to protect me. They were very hard on me. It was but they were loving, and that's kind of the background that I came up in. And I tried hard to fit in. It was really tough because I am mixed, white, Native American, Hispanic. I grew up, the area of Oak Cliff was 90%, Mexican American, Hispanic. But the way it was when I grew up is Mexican American people thought I was white. White people thought I was Mexican American. At home, I was raised as Native American. So I really, like, my identity was all over the place. I had trouble fitting in. So what did I do to fit in? I joked all the time. I went, like, if people were doing something wrong or bad because it was like their necessity, their way of that they had to exist, I would go above and beyond because I felt like I needed to fit in. So we have kids at school and they're you know gonna write on the wall or whatever, and I'm like, well, I'm gonna write bigger and like maybe even get caught doing it so I can know that I get caught. Like I felt like I had to do more to try to fit in, and it actually got me in a lot of trouble growing up. And at home, I would come home to a loving household. Again, I would be in trouble a lot with them. They were loving, but I realize now, like, my friends at school, they were in gangs and things like that because it was a necessity. It was their way for them to get by. Their bigger brothers and sometimes even their dads were, in gangs, stealing, selling drugs, doing stuff like that. They would go home and that's their life. Me, I would in school act like I was like them, and I would try to do even worse stuff than them at school. And then I would come home and like watch wrestling and play catch with my dad and stuff like that and get in trouble for the stupid stuff I did at school. And like I said, my family, I'm Shinshagu Lakota. My family is from Rosebud, South Dakota, which is South Dakota. We would go up there every summer. And I still do. This last summer, I got to spend the whole month of July up there. It was like how at the beginning of this, when I introduced myself and I called my spirit, I kind of feel like I left some of my spirit back there this summer. Like I haven't got the umph back yet since I've been here. But we went there every summer growing up, and that kept me really connected uh, to my indigeneity and my Lakota heritage. We'd go for ceremony, we'd visit family. It was my favorite time. I felt like I could be more who I actually wanted to be. I could be a better version of myself there than I was at home all year. But it was hard to keep that connection all year long, you know, especially as I got older and was junior high and in high school and stuff. And I feel like that connects to a lot of our indigenous people here. You know, it's hard to keep the connections that we want to keep. You know, we say that we walk in two worlds. We walk in uh, uh, our cultural, historical, traditional worlds, and then we have to navigate through the regular things like Zoom meetings and the bureaucracy of caucus bylaws and things like that. Um, but it gets hard sometimes when you can't keep the connections that you want to keep. Sometimes it makes you feel like just going all in on the other side and just saying, you know what, I just forget about my indigenous side. You know, I'm all this or all that. Also, my life, just like probably most people in this meeting and most of our constituents, I have had a lot of trauma in my life. My first real big trauma, like I said, I grew up with tough parents. That was one thing. But when I was in high school and around from about 15 to 20 years old, I 15 to 19 really, but almost right up until my first son was born, I got very involved in uh, a youth group, an evangelical Christian Assemblies of God Pentecostal youth group in Oak Cliff, and it was really a big part of my identity in high school. And I've seen memes on the internet that this says like "sorry for what I said" as an evangelical teenager, and it's like a funny meme. But like I've actually apologized to people, like, man, I'm sorry. And some people are like, oh no, you were cool, man. I didn't even think of that. But like in my heart, I felt like, man, I can't believe I was. And the reason I say religious trauma is because I was like all in, right, as a teenager, uh, you know, uh, for Christianity. And then as I got older and started becoming more closer to adult age, I started realizing that a lot of the leaders and stuff weren't really all in. Like they didn't, how they acted at home was not how what I would see when I was around them at church and stuff like that. So that started kind of giving me like mixed emotions, mixed signals. But when my wife, and she's still my wife at this time, right? We're going to be 20 years married in February, so like 19 and a half years. But when she got pregnant with my first son, we weren't married yet. The church um, really shamed us for that. They said we could stay members of the church, but we would have to sit at the back of the church. We would have to get married. She couldn't wear white. We couldn't have a big ceremony where we invited a lot of people. It would have to be on a Sunday in between services, and people would have to like know what we did, and we would have to be atoned for it and things like that. And that trauma really led to the next thing in my life, which was I struggled with addiction a lot, really from the time I was 20 until I was 32 years old. So now I'm proudly 7 years sober. And my story, I wouldn't be who I am without going through that addiction and without my sobriety. It's really um, really one of the biggest parts of me. But for whenever I left the church, I didn't really know. I that day that they told us all of that was the first time that I had ever went out and like got drunk to wipe my problems away. You know, when I was a kid, I smoked weed, tried cocaine, tried acid, you know, when I was 11, 12, 13, but it was all just like a kid trying to show off, keep up with my friends, stuff like that. This was like I had so much hurt. I really needed to uh to do something about it. And it started when I was 20, and it kind of spiraled all the way till I was 32. And I was diagnosed with cirrhosis of the liver at the age of 32, right? So that is really where my fight began. When I was 32 years old, May 27th of 2016 was the last time that I ever drank alcohol. And on May 30th, I was hospitalized with cirrhosis of the liver. And this picture was taken like probably my second or third day in the hospital. I was there for 8 days. And I wanted to show this picture to show how I looked, probably at my worst, but maybe like a week to 3 days before that, I was really at my worst. You know, this was after they had given me some medication and things like that. But I was only 32 years old, and I was close to dying because of my addiction, the unhealthy way that I lived. And I share this picture and my story online a lot. And a lot of times people think that my story is a weight loss story, and that's not what it's about. It's about taking back control of my health, my physical health, my mental health, my spiritual health. Because this person in this picture right here, I was sick in every way. I was depressed. I had high blood pressure. I had bad asthma. I had liver disease. I couldn't look at myself in the mirror. I hated who I saw when I looked in the mirror. And I had no spiritual connection. I had no connection anymore to my culture or anything. Everything that meant so much to me when I was growing up, and then even the stuff that meant a lot to me, like around the time my sons were first born, when I was 20, 21, 22, none of it meant anything anymore around the time of this picture. And so when I had to overcome cirrhosis and addiction, I knew that I had to fight. That was the only way to do it. Both of those things on their own, a lot of people don't come back from, right? But having to figure out how to recover from that and heal myself at the same time, I had to fight. So I had to figure out who was in my corner and how did I train. So as we think about that as a caucus, we have to think about those things too. Who is in our corner and how do we train? How do we prepare for the fight? So here, so overcoming. Oh, wait. Yeah, there we go. So these are some pictures. The one on the far left is probably about a month before I went to the hospital. The one in the middle was in September. So I was in the hospital in June. So this is September that same year. I'm like starting to heal, starting to feel a little better. And then on the far right was February of 2018. So it's about 18 months after my diagnosis. I actually ran a half marathon. I'd never ran a marathon in my life, but because of my strong support system and things like that, I was able to overcome both my addiction and cirrhosis. And that picture there, you know, I still had my fade at the time. I hadn't started growing my hair out or anything, but that's one of the proudest times ever in my life because of how far I had came in those 18 months. I had lost 150 pounds. Again, it's not about weight loss, but it's about taking back control. And this is a thing for a lot of our constituents. A lot of the people that we serve go through tough struggles, and I believe we can be there for them. We can be the advocates for them. We could be the buffer. We can be the support system like my family was, like my wife was, my mom was. We can be there for them and for them to see that they can have a better life. And so through my fighting and things like that, I started to get involved in advocacy. And my story, the reason why I share my story of recovery and cirrhosis and thing like that is because that's actually what led me into advocacy. So what I started doing was sharing my story about overcoming liver disease and how I'd healed myself. I started sharing it on Instagram. and people started reaching out to me just one-on-one. I would get a few messages, and it still happens, like if I check my Instagram messages, there could be some today. But back then, and people would say, how did you heal your liver? How did you heal addiction? I would do things like that, and I felt good about doing that. I felt better than I had felt about anything that I had ever done in my previous, from my previous life. I had worked in banks, auto finance, things like that. And when I was doing this, I said, well, how can I do this for a living? So I went back to school. I went to Dallas College, got an associate's degree to become a licensed chemical dependency counselor. And I said, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to help people recover from addiction and things like that. And I still hold my LCDC, my licensed chemical dependency counsel certification, but I've moved more into advocacy. So I haven't really practiced much in that. Last year, I did a few hours a week, things like that, but not much. But around the same time when I was starting to go back to school and stuff, I also went with my my grandma Eleanor, the one who was in the middle of that picture earlier. We went back to Rosebud and visited family for the first time in 18 years. Like I said, for the first 19 years of my, from the time I was like 6 to the time I was 19, we'd go every summer. Well, when I started drinking, I had my kids, started having a young family, things like that. I didn't go back again until I was 33 or 34. And when I went back, I said, man, this is what I've been missing. This is the spiritual things that I've been missing. This is the culture. This is like the missing link of everything I've been putting together. And when I went back, then I had a desire to enrich myself more in my Lakota culture, and for the first time get involved more in the intertribal community culture here in Dallas. And I was really doing it for personal reasons, just for myself, for my own enrichment, for my own, like, hey, these are my people. This is, who I want to hang out with. This is what I don't drink anymore. This is who I want to do. But after a while, I started feeling a call to advocate for them. And it really happened because of two things. One, the American Indian Native Studies course, which is actually received approval over the summer to be offered statewide in public schools as an innovative course. It was being developed in 2020, and I had got asked to be like a community consultant on that course, and being drawn into that. And then about a year later, Jody Voice Yellowfish, who I don't know if she's in this meeting or not. I can't see, I can only see a few people on my screen. She had reached out to me about, they had like an open membership to be involved in the MMIW group, but she had specifically called out a few of us guys to say like, hey guys, this isn't only for women, for male identifying relatives can be a part of it too. And between the American Indian Studies course, the MMIW group, and my own personal work, which what I was wanting to do with helping people get healthier, it kind of, the puzzle started to come together for my true advocacy work, which which is really my life to this day. And so to the topic of fighting, advocacy is fighting, right? As advocates, we fight. We fight for a variety of reasons, but mostly we're fighting for our people, for those who can't, for whatever reason. Either they don't have the resources, they don't have the desire, they don't have the they don't have mentors, things like that. But as advocates, we fight for our people. And so what are we fighting for? What are Indigenous people problems? So, there are some problems that are unique to Indigenous people, like trauma from boarding school. If our tribalized people, all of us, including myself, we have historical trauma from our parents, our grandparents, going to boarding schools and being raised in that abusive system, and then they in turn didn't know how to be parents to us. That's a unique trauma. We have legal jurisdiction issues that other people don't, that non-tribal people don't face. Sometimes some deeply historic connections to the lands that other people might not have. But for the most part, the problems that we have are the same as other marginalized communities. There's not really indigenous people problems, right? There's a few, but for the most part, substance abuse, violence, poverty, our health concerns, distrust of governments, and distrust of anyone who presents herself as an expert, including us as people who would, be politically involved in a caucus or anything like that. That's not unique among our people. Even, MMIW, the Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women, is a indigenous movement, but violence against and people going missing is not unique to us. We mobilized in a unique way, but those kind of things are not unique to us. And the reason I want to clarify that is because, especially when it comes to substance abuse or poverty or things like that, sometimes even within our own community, we seem to want to take pride in, like, oh, we suffer from addiction at higher rates, or we suffer. When you look at statistically, we really don't, right? We have the same type of problems, but our problems is we don't have the visibility that a lot of the other people have. We have been forever marginalized and looked over and forgotten about. And like, people don't even know, I don't even know if everybody in this meeting know who the federally recognized tribes are in Texas. And then, or where are most of our people at? Those are things that I want you to think about. Where are most of the Native people at? And I could tell you they're not on a reservation here. They're in our big cities, right? So as a caucus, we should have contacts with our 3 federally recognized tribes, but we should also have contacts in Dallas, San Antonio, Houston, and in Texas. We cannot forget. And in this meeting, it's kind of like I'm preaching to the choir, but in general, when we're advocating for indigenous people, that American Indian, tribalized, that's one thing, but our indigenous population, a lot are people from the other side of the man-made border, right? And as the Indigenous Peoples Caucus, we owe it to them to serve them just as much, and to find out what's the need of those people. And in Texas, the strategy against Indigenous people has always been to divide and conquer, and that's still the strategy, right? So they want to have us bickering against each other and ununified, and whether it's a tribe that claims historical value to this land, but they're actually in another state, and then versus the tribes that are here, indigenous people, urban natives. They want us to all be divided against each other and seeking our own good. And the people who are not for us, right, they love that stuff, right? So do we need to fight? The same question I asked at the beginning. Who do we fight? Why do we fight? And how do we fight? I want you all to answer those questions. So I think I've actually already went a little bit over my time, but if people want to start adding that, but I do want to say one more thing. And this part, I almost thought about deleting it because it's a little corny, but my kids will tell you, like, I'm like the most corny person they've like in the world, right? Like, probably most people think that about their parents. But so the IPC, right, the Indigenous Peoples Caucus of Texas, this group is actually revolutionary, right? There's not a Indigenous Peoples Caucus right now. So we, kind of, in our executive committee over the last year and a few months since we've been together, it sometimes it can feel like a little club, like, oh, there's a few of us, it's a little small club. But this is actually something very special, right? A way for us to fight for our people. We really have a chance to fight for our people and to rally for them, because not everyone is willing to fight or able to fight. But for the people on the caucus, the people in this meeting, the people who have interest, and if you're not involved in the caucus and you just join this meeting just to see what it's about, I encourage you to join, to help us, to get more involved. I'm sure a lot of you have a lot more knowledge than us. You have something to add, and if you're just wanting, if you're curious to learn, I encourage you to, because most of us, for some reason, we have a calling and we've been chosen either gladly or reluctantly to be here. And IPC, we have to be the champions for our people. And by champions, so the definition of champions, to champion for something, is to support the cause or defend, right? So I'm not saying we're the champions, like we're holding up the belt like Stone Cold Steve Austin or Mike Tyson. I'm saying we champion for our people, right? So IPC, the Indigenous People Champion, we fight for them. So, and that's exactly what we do, to support or defend the cause, and we support and defend our people. And so thank you. I am done, and now I will open it up for if anybody wants to add anything, anybody wants to, especially if it's, what are we fighting for? Who are we fighting for?
Thank you,
Join me in
Stephen.
giving it up for Stephen. Woo!
Good job, Stephen. That was so engaging. Thank you so much.
Yes, it was so good. Thank you, Stephen, for accepting our invite and being here and talking to our caucus, showing them that we can fight. No matter what little we do, we can all fight for our people.
Thank you, Martin. And I know Steven just posed the questions. And folks, if this is your first meeting, the way we go around it, okay, hold on. You can see me now. Haha. The way we go around it is that for this second part, we are gonna answer the questions actually by having a discussion. Here, we do encourage any one of you that is here as an ally and would only like to listen to place an L on your name. That way people don't call upon you. If not, we encourage folks to raise their hand to answer the question or to call on someone that you would like to hear from. I do want to say that maybe for this initial part, let's thank Stephen by uplifting anything that he shared that stays with us or that maybe inspires something in us. If anyone would like to go and uplift something from Stephen, I can kick it off by saying who's in your corner and know how to train for the fight. I love that.
Thank you. And also, if I know Rojo had mentioned, that there was going to be time for question and answer. So if y'all have any questions, I know I asked you all questions, but if you all have any questions about anything that I said, I'm glad to answer. And thanks, Rojo.
Don't all ask all at once.
We have a shy group, either that or people are ready to jump into the questions that Stephen posed to the group. Stephen, wondering if also you could add your info on the chat. That way, if anyone would like to maybe reach out to you for further discussion, as much as you feel comfortable. And yes, thank you guys. Don't forget that we're here to create, I tell folks, we're here to become a brave space, because if we can have a brave space, we can get to a safe space. We need to start claiming more safe spaces for Native American Indigenous folks. So thank you for being here. We have this the third Sunday of every month. Next month's word, if I'm not mistaken, is justice, because there is a trial happening for Ken Paxton, and we have some political heads here that would love to talk and tell us some more about what's going on, and hopefully we can have another exciting speaker for y'all. Stephen, also, do you mind reminding us the questions?
Yeah, who are we fighting against? How do we fight? Like, we can't go up to people and punch them in the face. We can't even, it's probably not a good idea for us to go and slander their mom online and stuff like that, right? So who are we fighting against? How do we fight? And who are we fighting for?
I think who we're
Why
fighting.
do we fight?
Yeah, I think the first question is good. Who are you fighting against? You can't really fight if you don't know. And I think that's actually been as a an Indian and a party member, activist for a long time, inside the party, it's getting better, a lot better, really exponentially. But really, inside the party, we take up air. You know, we take up time, probably better than anybody, and and we are an unknown. You know, they don't sometimes. I love all the modern movies and TV programs that are coming out. It's fabulous. They really don't have a clue. They being the unknown people who we don't know what their perception is, and I've heard it said to me at every level. You know, well, why does that matter? and because I'm not invisible, and I won't be. Although Indians have long been called invisible people, so I think, who are we fighting against? The unknown. That question really tapped me.
Thank you, Gary. See, the way I think about it in a fight, you have to know who you're fighting against, right? If you're fighting, you have to know your opponent. You have to know what they're thinking, what their strategies are, what they're gonna try to do against you. How prepared are they to fight against you? You know, and so if we don't know the answer, if you can't really come up with anything, then those are the kind of things that we really need to start thinking about as a caucus and as a people.
I think that one thing that we really are fighting against, especially currently, is the deletion of history instead of going for learning from it. And so it's more like the people and the political groups that are actually trying to eradicate and delete that history rather than embrace it, admit that it happened, and use it as a lesson and a movement forward. Sorry, Stephen, this is Tamara.
Hey, Tamara, yeah, and I agree, and I see Diana's hands up, but I'm just gonna add one thing. So like the American Indian Native Studies course that got approved somehow in this political climate, it went through, and you know, they delayed it. It went through. They made us change some things, but there's no crazy changes in it. Like, but they didn't, of course, like us using words like colonize, settle. They had us change those words and to try to find a way to soften it. And so to Tamara's point, it seems like in Texas, like they want us to be able to tell our story. They want us to be able to be included in some way, but as long as we can stay within their version of who we are, you know, which isn't the real version of who we are. Diana.
Oh, hi, Stephen. Thank you for the presentation. I really enjoyed hearing your life story all in a row like that. You know, I've heard of bits and pieces and stuff like that. It really is inspiring, and thank you for opening up and sharing everything with us. And I think it's a good analogy for fighting as well. I want to just throw out the idea that one thing that we're fighting is not necessarily a party or a person, but more like the idea, kind of aligned with what Gary was saying, the ambiguous attitude towards us because they think we don't really exist, and that is a thing, a concept that we need to fight. And the way to do that is to make sure that there's a place at the table for us and for the people that we represent. And we're doing a good job. This caucus is the very beginning of that, making people understand that we do still exist, and we do have political power in numbers, and we do have purchasing power, and we do have all of those things. And that's one thing on a side note that we probably should begin to look at and study is those kind of numbers, so we can flex our muscles a little bit when the time comes to it. But the other thing I would say too is that we have to fight is the lack of education within our populations regarding how powerful participating in the political process can be, and that we really can make a difference. And, you know, I keep thinking about the Yuchi. I'm Yuchi on my mom's side. The Yuchi's story of how Woodpecker got his red feathers basically comes down to the lesson that even the smallest person can make a change that saves the world and that shifts everything, even the smallest numbers. And we saw in the last of the last two presidential elections that those small numbers did make major changes. So educating our populations and our people about the power of the political process and how easy it really is to participate, I think is another thing we need to think about fighting. I would, you know, I know it's not a person, but I do think it's something we need to focus on.
You nailed it, Diana.
Oh.
You said it.
All right. Now I got to figure out how to take my hand down.
And then I see Rojo's hands up.
Y'all are dropping gold, and I'm so thankful that we're recording all this. But I'll say that to uplift a little bit what y'all have said in the chat as well, I focus a lot on policy because I firmly believe that who writes the policy writes the rules. And it was through policy that they took our land. You know, it was through policy that they took our recognition, through policy that they were able to do all these terrifying things for the name of freedom, right? So there's something there about us not only having the seat at the table, right, but start demanding them to question why we built that table. Why did we build it without us in it at the beginning, right? So with the Texas Democratic Party, I will tell you that we're only with the Texas Democratic Party because the Republican Party refuses to acknowledge us. So believe me, a lot of us here in the IPC caucus, you know, don't necessarily identify as hardcore Democrats, but we're here because it's the only avenue as of right now. And in this next convention, we will be acknowledged. So, you know, I thought about Stephen because your story is a personal struggle. You know, it's a fight within ourselves, with our potential. I have imposter syndrome. I know it's often because I'm an immigrant. I'm first generation here in Texas. And it can feel like the weight of the world, but it doesn't have to, right? We make it that way. And I think with Stephen, every time I hear your story more and more, it kind of touches on that, the inner fight and how we are able to stop ourselves. But now you're booked. You're lucky we get Stephen now because he's booked, yo. And we need that. We need our people booked. We need our people in those spaces and speaking loud and clear what we, you know, what we need. But all that to say that with the IPC, we do want to have you all here. We want to grow, and we will be recognized as the IPC in 2024. The convention is in El Paso. I know folks mentioned here the tribes there. And just to make a plug with policy, if you of your tribe don't know about this yet, the IRA, Inflation Reduction Act, passed by the Biden administration and in Congress, has a bunch of money in it. One of them is called Solar for All. I mentioned it before and I'll plug it again. I'll put it on Facebook and on the Slack. Tribes have its own application for Solar for All. Texas is getting $400 million. Some of that cut can go to tribes. So if you are connected to any tribes in Texas, they can apply separately without the county, whether, you know, without the city, it can be directly. So yeah, I'll put more information later on that. I'll pass it to Philip or Stephen.
Oh yeah, Philip. Thanks,
Thank
Rojo.
you, Stephen. You did an excellent presentation of your background and everything. I appreciate that. And I'm going to follow up on what Rojo said right now. And I know Martinez is also listening in, but I think let's go back to the main point here when we talk about Texas, about trying to get representation here in Texas. It's important for people to realize that Texas, for example, became a state like in 1836. It wasn't until 1846 when the Democratic Party existed here in Texas. So between 1846 to 2019, we ended up with a situation where now the Democratic Party existed for 177 years. 177 years. However, because we're going back to get representation, for the first 98 years, Texas did not acknowledge Blacks, Hispanics, or Native Americans. In fact, that's what we refer to as the Jim Crow area, the white primary here, specifically in Texas, we were not recognized. It wasn't until after 1944 to current has the state party even recognized minorities. And then for the first 20 to 25 years after 1944, we've had a struggle to get representation before the state party to get a seat. And I know the Indigenous People Caucus, which I've been working with, needs to come forward and be recognized by the party to have a seat at the party. We realize that right now we have, and I'm going to diverge just a little bit. I didn't get a chance to fully introduce myself. My name is Philip Reese. Philip Reese, all four of us are there. So I am previously a county chairman for over 25 years. I've been an executive board member of the Democratic Party. I'm a co-chair for the Progressive Hispanic Democrats here in Texas, a member of the Mexican American Democrats, the former statewide chair for the Tejano Democrats. So I've had extensive experience with all the democratic functions, and I'm the one who advocated originally for the indigenous people. We said we need a seat at the table. We're not being recognized and everything else. So it's my goal for you all to have a seat on the table, because right now we have the state recognized 3 official Hispanic Latino caucuses, Hispanic and Latino caucuses. We have the State Tejano Caucus, which was established back in 1996. It's been around for 27 years. We have the Mexican American Democrats, which was established back in 1972, 51 years. We have the Progressive Hispanic Democrats, which established in 2004, 18 years, and we have a new one that I'm helping with, the LGBTQIA plus caucus, which is similar to that's coming on board here. It's been around for about a year and a half. So that means we have 119 years of these groups experience trying to get on the Democratic Party. The party says we're in for a fair deal, but they failed to acknowledge that it's been a struggle for these groups to get representation at the table. We created what's called the Hispanic Caucus in 2002. It's been around for 21 years. Before it was called the Tejano Caucus. I was a state chairman for the state Tejanos. I'm the one who orchestrated the change from Tejano to Hispanic. And I was working on to change it from Hispanic to Hispanic Latino for Texas, because they're similar, distinct terms, but they're not interchangeable. They're 2 different groups of people. But the main thing I'm trying to give my experience here is to help the group get recognized and have a seat at the table as we do at the SDC voting members. It's very important. And that's my analysis real quick, but I'm here to advise and to help the group. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ruiz.
Sorry, Stephen. But like I was saying, thank you everyone that came. And also, I want to also remind everybody, next Saturday or next weekend, the SDEC will be meeting in Fort Worth. So if anybody can be there, it'll be awesome to have a good representation. It's open to the public at the general meeting for the SDEC. So if we can all be there, that'll be awesome. Because I'm going to be there representing the Tejano Democrats as a state member right now, and has the second vice chair for the 23rd Senatorial District, Tejano Democrats, and a member of the Indigenous Peoples Caucus. I will be representing us at the SDC meeting. So, but what I wanted to say is thank you again, Stephen, for your awesome presentation. And yes, Jody Yellowfish was on the call when you mentioned her, and she had to leave already. So we want to say thank you for her for being here, and you and her have given us an awesome presentation. Y'all were tremendous. I wish we could have both of you together at one time. Do a good presentation, but we'll talk about that in the future. But right now, I'll give it back to Rojo or Kristen.
We're gonna do last comments.
I
I
have
don't
a
know if folks would
question.
like to share. Yeah, go for it.
I have a question. I was wondering, the gentleman was, this is my first meeting, but the gentleman was talking about a meeting in Fort Worth. What is that group? What is the meeting and who is the group that's putting it on?
The meeting is from the Texas Democratic Party. It's the Senatorial District Executive Board.
Oh, okay. And will you put information on here, like when, I mean, the time, the date, time, and where it's actually at?
Do you have that also, Philip, right? You do have that? I know it's going to be there at the UT Health Center at 2300 Camboui. The time of the meeting, I do not
Oh, okay.
know. But
Yes,
yeah,
folks, if you could
that's where it's going to
actually,
be.
we can find out the information and send it on Slack and Facebook if you're part of those two.
Okay, that would be great.
And thank you for joining us. We'll have it the third Sunday of every month. See you in September. We are wrapping it up. So any other comments that folks would like to make? Any other appreciations for Stephen?
You did great, Stephen. I appreciate always reading or listening to your story. It's amazing. And like I say, it makes you who you are, and it makes you driven to do the things that you do to help our community.
That's good.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, yeah, happy to share. Hopefully everybody got something out of it and was able to make a connection to, like, why am I just listening to his story? Like, what, like, how does that mean anything to a Democratic caucus? Hopefully I was able to tie it together and you all can see some connection there, and it's not just me blabbering talking about myself.
If I could chime in on this again, Rojo, on what Stephen just mentioned. His story goes perfect with the Texas Democratic Party because we are always fighting for everybody, for the common man. We are fighting for every person in this meeting, every person in the state, no matter who you are, no matter who you care for, who you love, who you are. That's who we fight for. Everything you mentioned a little while ago, Stephen, all that goes together.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Martin. All right, folks, it would not be a IPC meeting if I'm not able to finish with a wrap up. And just to wrap it up to you again, today we had the opportunity to hear from Stephen Silva Brave, and he put his information already. And then if not, you can always reach out through Facebook or Slack. If you are not part of Slack yet, Kristen is the person to reach out for. That way you can get connected. If you want to share some events or something happening in your community, please use the Facebook that we have. We're about to jump into TikTok and Instagram, so stay tuned. And most importantly, if you want to bring something to the table to help us get to our finish line, which is next summer, the convention, we need bylaws and then we need a platform. So we have a lot of work to do. The bylaws committee, it's meeting twice a month. Their next meeting is this Friday. They could sure use some help. So if you're looking to help with that, just reach out through Slack, either to me, Kristen, Martin, or Steven, and we'll plug you in over there on the bylaws committee, because we could use your set of eyes or your expertise. If that's not for you, as soon as we finish the bylaws, we will need support with the platform. And that really just means what we stand for as a caucus and what we want to present to the Texas Democratic Party. So thank you to all of you. Thank you for what you do, and thank you for showing up. Anything else that anyone would like to share before we close out?
One more thing. I know I'm talking too much, but still, I would also like to plug Diana. Diana is very involved within the Indigenous Peoples Caucus by herself with her own group. Diana, can you please put in the chat your group that you're very involved with, that maybe we can have people also get involved with you?
Martin, were you talking about Diana?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, about the
Yeah.
what's our other group, Diana? Democracy is Indigenous? Is that what you're talking about, Martin?
Whatever groups. I know she's got several groups that she's very active on. Like maybe also put down that your group, Stephen, that Tom and what your group and all that other stuff that y'all got. So the new people that we have here can go maybe get involved with you all too.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, I couldn't find the unmute button. Took me for a minute. The other organization that I'm involved in, this is Diana, is out of DFW, and Stephen's involved in it too. It's Democracy is Indigenous, and it is based out of the United Methodist Church in Oak Cliff, and it's funded by a national organization. And the goal is to educate our community on basically the things that I was saying earlier. We, just like Stephen said, we share similar issues with other communities, but we also have some unique ones, and we have a unique relationship with the government that's really, like, on a DNA level, makes us hesitant to get ourselves involved with them in any way that we have to, and so getting our people to vote is really a special effort to get them comfortable to vote. But Democracies Indigenous is partnering with Texas Native Health, who Kirsten and I are board trustees over there. We have funding over there, so we're partnering with Texas Native Health to do some activities specifically in the American Indian community. But there's such a there's such a lap over between the communities that whatever we do is really serving the entire Indigenous community. Wouldn't you agree, Stephen?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. A lot of that's why, like, you'll see me and Diana and Kirsten and Jody, and then now, like, even me and Rojo, like, we intersect in and out of different groups. Like, oh, I'm in this group with Diana, but Diana's in this group with Kirsten, and we're all in this group with Jody. And and it seems like a lot, but our goals are so similar within all of the different groups that sometimes it, like, we're all moving towards the same thing, right? Like, Democracy is Indigenous is about driving up interest among the people. So to me, I feel like this group, the caucus, is more of the people who are willing to do more of the, bureaucratic bylaws, executive. But on the other end, we're trying to engage the community and simple things like just getting out to vote, and why would voting benefit you, and trying to change some of the narratives. But it's similar here because we're also trying to get people involved in a different aspect of the political system and get us seen and heard in that way. But yeah, like Diana said, there's overlap in our goals. And sometimes that's why I know the same thing happens to Diana. Sometimes I get confused of, like, was this said in this meeting, or was this said in this meeting? Or was this, oh wait, in this meeting, we're for a particular party. For this meeting, we have to be bipartisan.
Right. That's
like,
right. That's
we
right.
both stepped into it that way too. So,
And I will say too that I feel like the Indigenous Peoples Caucus is like the the hammer that we're building, so that when we go to our people and we tell them it's really important for you to do this, because not only will it make a difference in who our leaders are, but we are also have this other platform over here where we can really make some inroads and making a difference on infrastructure and housing and crime and all these other things. So to me, the Indigenous People Caucus helps legitimize the work that we're doing within the smaller community.
That was awesome. And also now that we're including this, Philip, so aware, I am also the chair emeritus, not chair emeritus, chair to bring in the Indigenous people to have put them in the table for the state Tejano Democrats. I'm also one of the chairs for that too, to create and to add the Indigenous people to be having a table at our table with the Tejano Democrats, besides doing everything else that we're doing here. We need one more step to get our foot in that door again. So we're working on that too. Who's next? I think we're almost done out of here.
Yeah, I think we are. And like I said, y'all, the good thing is that we recorded all of this. So you get to go back and actually watch it if you want to and get some of the information. And I love that idea of a hammer, Dan. I'll take that with me. It's an institution, like Philip said, look at how many years and they haven't recognized us. And we have to keep fighting for it. So the moment we get recognized, we will, because otherwise we're doing an action in El Paso, y'all. I would also say that Ted Cruz is on the chopping block next year. So the Texas candidate for Senate will be meeting with us. I believe he should also be meeting and will be meeting with Democracies Indigenous like Beto did. And that's the pathway, right? We want to make sure that every candidate, and hopefully one day, Indigenous Native American candidates can be meeting with us. But until we get there, we need to make sure we create these structures in different institutions. So we're all doing it. So thank you. Anything else that anyone would like to share before we close down?
I just wanted to say thank you for everybody who spoke and everybody who kind of gave representation. I feel like I learned a lot. And I just wanted to kind of throw out there, I don't know how like anybody can get in contact with me. I'll put my contact, but the course that I teach at my university is the Borders, Race, and Literature course. But I do put heavy undertones of CRT, Indigenous theory, Indigenous studies. If anybody wants to talk about your group, even if it's in Zoom or in person in my class, I have the class every Tuesday and Thursday. I have a morning class at 10 a.m. and I have a class in the afternoon at 1. I'll put my email if anybody wants to like get in touch with that. I'm like want to open the floor for like class visitors, like class speakers. My students, it's a cross-listed course. So I teach bachelor's, master's, and PhD students. And so that's like a really nice little platform. I also was the first professor to actually have the first Mexican American studies with Indigenous Studies Perspectives course last fall. So I'm kind of like by myself at UTSA, but like knowing that there's a lot of contacts here that I can connect with to like show the students like there's a lot of resources. That's something I'm really looking forward to. And yeah, I just feel really grateful for all the good company. I see Taylor, I recognize Taylor from the previous meetings that I've been in. If it wasn't for Taylor and some other colleagues, other colegas, I wouldn't have known about the group. And also anything with the bylaws, editing, writing, I would love to help. Hi, Taylor. And also, I think this is something that we would really want to push because just to stress, people from Texas know about it, but in Texas, we're in dire need of defending our sacred lands and our borders, our heavily militarized borders. I probably can't even go back home and live on the border because of how much I've spoken out against the wall. I had death threats. That's one of the reasons I'm like, I'll go do my PhD and I'll fight with education and I'll write books that are countering the erasure of like the heritage and indigeneity and the way we are guardians of the land and our people. It is our responsibility and it is in our inherent nature to defend our people and our land. So I'm commend everybody, but also to a virtual hug to everyone. I'm so glad this is also like an intergenerational group where everybody can combine their new gifts and everyone who is like seasoned, their seasoned gifts. I really feel like that's very indigenous to have the intergenerational like knowledge here. So thank you, everybody. I'm gonna mute myself now, but I'm gonna throw my email in the chat, and a pleasure to meet everybody, familiar and old faces. Thank you.
Thank you. That was so great. Martin will probably get your info so that you can be a speaker too for one of the meetings. Because I heard that about the borders. I was like, that's a topic, you know?
Yeah, it
And
is.
you are.
I already had her in my mind. I need your information, Dr. Daniela Lopez.
And thank you so much, because the question I hear in the classroom all the time is the students telling me, okay, miss, you lit a fire under me, but where do you send me now? And I'm excited because I'm hearing from everyone I have places to send them. So thank you guys. And any way I can help,
Fantastic.
I'm more than happy. Thank you.
Our bylaws committee sure needs help. So I'm plugging all of y'all to that because, like I said, we got to make this move. We have 1 year for this project to get to this El Paso convention. I want to see all of you in El Paso. We are partnering with La Mujer Obrera, and we will be staying there at a huge Airbnb. So everyone is welcome. I'm fundraising already for it, folks. But yes, more to come on that. If you want to get more involved, we have more things for you to get involved. But yeah, we're basically meeting once a month here as a way to just collect knowledge from everyone and bring your friends and your family members. But then our executive team meets also once a month. And then our bylaws committee is meeting. Once the bylaws are complete, we will start creating the platform committee and other events. I believe we're going to have an in-person gathering. We're hoping to have one in San Antonio, actually. So it works out well. You'll just open a museum there for Texas Native Americans, and we would love to attend. But yeah, all that to say, and of course, I would not forgive myself without mentioning Tache, since you're, that is a convention for higher education, and we're trying to get a lot of Native American Indigenous students to that convention, and it will be happening in Houston, if I'm not mistaken. But yes, with that, thank you all so much for attending. Put your information in the chat if we don't have you yet, so we can connect you to Slack. All right, goodbye, everyone. Enjoy your evening.
Thank you, Rojo. Goodbye.
Thank you for everybody for coming. We enjoyed it. We enjoyed your presence. Lovely evening, wasn't it?
It was good. Yep, it was really good. Have a good night, Martin.
All right, you too.